next speaker is going to be Melinda Mulcahy, who will be speaking on the topic Curiosity as a Tool for Better Mental Health. Melinda is the founder of CuriousYou. She ran an international precious jewelry business before studying positive psychology for happiness to find curiosity. And Melinda, you can start now.
Hi, I just want to say what a privilege it is here to be amongst such amazing people to talk about mental health issues and to try and destigmatize mental health. So I'm Melinda. Yes, I have developed the CuriousYou, Curious Advantage, simply because I come from a background of mental health. So first of all, I just want to get you right now at this very moment to focus on what you're feeling and thinking right now, because chances are you're actually wondering how curiosity can actually help you for mental health. So let's just take a moment to think about this. And I want you to think and feel at the same time. And I want you to drop your thoughts and your feelings right now in the comments, just so we can get an idea of if you're feeling any kind of novelty, if you like, because that's what curiosity is about. It offers novelty. So just to imagine for a minute that you're actually, wondering what on earth curiosity is about. Start to think about, are you actually interested in this conversation? How are you actually feeling as you are interested in this conversation? So this is what I'm talking about, this power of curiosity, and it offers a sweet spot, if you like, of potential. And it's something that is greatly misunderstood, and it's actually dismissed most of the time. But what it offers is an excitement, motivation. It offers interest, inquisitiveness, a drive to move forward. And that's what curiosity is, and that's what we need to really tap into. So the trouble is that it happens so fast that it's actually quite overlooked because it's so difficult to detect. And the reason why it's so fast is because your automatic system is actually taking over. And what it actually does is curiosity actually stops you from automatic thinking, which is really, really important. And this is what we need to engage more in. So it's that sweet spot of potential that we need to explore and we need to build upon. And this is where we need to begin. So the curious advantage. If you want to be happier, healthier, more intelligent, mindful, which is a big topic, isn't it? Successful, innovative, creative, resilient, lucky, purposeful, that leads to better outcomes, not just for your mental health, but all outcomes, then this is when I really do suggest you get curious. And it's such an easy concept to explore and to develop that quite a lot of people don't actually appreciate exactly how powerful it is. So you see, you were born curious. Over time, that curiosity has been diminished. One of the reasons why is because our education system talks us out of our curiosity. It teaches us not to be curious, unfortunately. And also then when we go through the workplace, and even our parents get a bit sick of us asking questions as we're kids. And what happens is that then our natural editor, the editor who actually is part of us, that wants to make us better, that wants to help us improve, unfortunately, that takes over. And it takes over to the degree that you then become far less curious. So we need to find this balance between our self-editor and our curiosity. And it's a very, very fine balance. And as that reigns supreme, of course, then we end up having this negative self-talk, which then can spiral out of our control. So we need to get a rein check on, rein in our thoughts, our judgments, and our beliefs which are actually programmed from the past. So we're currently living in the past. And what I just want to say is that, you know, this is a global crisis. This is happening all around the world, and there are lots of things contributing to it. But ultimately, it comes out as stress. And then that stress, if unchecked and unmanaged, can then lead to quite significant mental health issues that actually come out in lots of different ways. And ultimately, it comes down to fear, this fear that actually we are unable to control the situation, and we're unable to control our thoughts and our feelings. So tell me in the chat that we've got here, what is the commonality, if you like, between Elon Musk and all other highly functioning, highly successful people throughout the world and throughout history to date? If anyone would like to add in the chat what you think it might be. This one commonality has helped the greatest luminaires in history, such as Plato, such as Galileo, Michelangelo, Steve Jobs, of course, and Stephen Hawking. And it is the difference between winning and losing, and that is self-questioning. That is your own curiosity. So now that's the difference really between highly functioning people and those who are barely surviving and barely thriving in life. So when I look at myself, I know that, you know, having already been in a position of negative self-talk that developed into quite a number of issues, what I realized actually it was my own thoughts and feelings that were causing all my problems. And so that's what really we need to get to, that point of working out how we think is really the determining factor, and also how we feel, because it's an interchanging, ever-evolving relationship between the body and the brain. So we need to work out how you are thinking, and then that determines your feelings, and your feelings determine how you're thinking. So what I want to do is really just talk to you a little bit about what happened to me, because that really is the basic story of where I come from. I went through quite a lot of different issues, and then I got better through my own curiosity. I started to question life. I started to question science. I looked into quite a lot of science, and then I went down the route of looking at positive psychology and neuroscience and so forth. And what I realized, actually, at the very base of it, I had actually tamed my monkey mind by becoming very, very curious about the science. But I kind of didn't realize that at the time. It wasn't until I actually had a negative diagnosis of cancer that I suddenly thought to myself, hang on a minute, you can't be happy in that situation, but you can be curious. And so rather than sort of have a meltdown with the doctor, I actually asked him, okay, so this is where I'm at. This is what I've got. What do you recommend? And how can I help you to make sure that we have a better outcome? In other words, I got curious about what he was going to do and what I could do to help him. And that gave me my power back. And actually, a PhD student at the time, Kelly Turner, wrote this book called Radical Remission. And in it, she determines 9 different factors of people who actually survived terminal cancer, where the doctors had actually given up, to determine several different controlling factors. And when you actually read the book, what you realize is that, and this is something that she actually missed as well, is that people became curious and interested in their own health, and they were able to take control. And actually, you know, when you look at someone as distinguished as Stephen Hawking, who had a very negative diagnosis at a very young age, which normally would have killed someone within about 14 months of diagnosis. But when you actually question, well, how did he live so long? you then start to kind of realize, bearing in mind what he managed to discover in terms of gravity and black holes, is that his curiosity to learn more about the universe diverted his brain away from that fear and into discovery. And so this is the power that we need to really tap into to develop and grow and get over mental health issues. So I bet you're kind of wondering how you can do that. Well, to give you an example, if you were to consider just right now how you're actually breathing, question not just how you're breathing, whether or not it's shallow, whether or not are you taking shallow breaths, whether or not you're taking really, really deep breaths, but also how often you're breathing. So say, for instance, I imagine you're probably sitting down right now. So are you questioning your breath as you sit down, as you work? And it's these sorts of questions we need to get more interested in. These are the questions we need to start developing. And then when we start to become aware of ourselves, aware of our physical body and what our body is actually telling us, then we can start to grow and learn and develop, again through curiosity, by asking ourselves, well, okay, if things aren't really great right now, how can I improve my situation, which then leads off to wonderful unlimited potentialities. And that's exactly what I did. So I just want to go into exactly the equation of fear, which is basically past experiences plus and equal to automatic perceptions that then determines biases. So when you're actually in this fear, and in past experiences, this automation, if you like, which is what we're currently living in around about 95% of the time, you have incredible biases, and that's what we need to reduce more of. And then there's this insufficient self-assessment coupled with our modern life. And the modern life is actually training us to be more automatic. We're relying more and more on our phones for information. You know, what do we do when we have a question? We Google it. And so whilst we might be to a degree learning more, we're not actually using our brain in the way it was designed. So it's more of this that we need to tap into to reduce our fears. So, you know, everyone says we're here to survive. And out of that survival, we then the brain tries to establish meaning and learning. And then this takes us into what? What exactly does our meaning and learning take us into? It takes us into improvement. We are designed not just to survive, we're designed to improve. But what happens is then we have this feedback loop then, because the brain is trying to determine meaning, it's trying to learn, and it's trying to figure out answers. And in doing so, quite often it actually gets stuck in this negative feedback loop. But it's precisely that we need to actually interrupt so that we can improve. And the brain works on reward systems. Again, you know, when we look at social media, of course, it rewards us all the time. So we need to start working with our reward system, because you can have this negative feedback loop, which, by the way, also rewards you and gets stuck in this loop. Or you could break the cycle by asking yourself simple questions. And don't underestimate just how one simple question like, how can I improve this situation, will really transport you into something quite unbelievable and remarkable and break this cycle, by the way. So we need to actually outfox our thought processing. This is what I call a flawed processing now, because of course we're no longer, we were designed to live in the savannah, where we didn't have all this automation. So now we need to actually outfox this automation. How do we do that? We start asking better questions. We start really asking ourselves, how am I feeling, which is so important, and how can I improve this situation? And it's really as simple as that. It's remarkably simple, I know, because I actually completely changed my life just by asking myself that question. And let me tell you this as well, one last thing. When we look at curiosity, now they've determined, years ago, it was always, you know, your intelligence was the greatest marker of success. or determining success. And then scientists started to look at emotional intelligence, your IQ and your EI, your emotional intelligence. But now science is showing that actually your curiosity helps to increase both. So we are now looking at a time when we are this natural ability needs to be tapped back into and needs to be increased so that we can become more intelligent, which, by the way, also improves your memory. You know, again, going back to when you're a child, your ability to be curious helped you learn, develop, and grow. But also we need to increase that emotional intelligence. How do we do that? We start asking questions about, you know, getting interested in other people, which also helps your emotional intelligence, starting to get interested in yourself. So this more sort of self-focused emotional intelligence. So it's difficult, as I said, to be happy all of the time. And sometimes there are issues that are insurmountable. But when you get to that point, you know, quite often it's really just a very simple question that can actually trigger you to move forward. And so this is your greatest superpower. This is curiosity. And as you can see here, I've done a little Wordle. I've actually found over 65 benefits for curiosity now. And I really am on a mission to try and improve everybody's curiosity, because it's so natural, it's so free, and it's available all the time. So with that, I hope that I've come up to my time, and I'd really love to encourage you to start asking some questions about curiosity right now. Please share your comments in the chat below.
So Melinda, that was a really good session. So now I've got some questions for you. So you said that curiosity is not being taught in the mainstream education system. So why do you think that is? And do you think it's something which can be taught easily?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a fantastic question. And it's also a very fundamental question, because the reason why curiosity has been dismissed, and the reason why it's not really encouraged in education and in our employment situation, is simply because people believe that it allows us to be a lot more creative. And quite often it is also this risk, or this uncertainty. And of course, the brain and society don't like uncertainty, they like certainty. But what we need to understand is that if we want to innovate, if we want to come up with solutions to, for instance, improve our, not just our mental health, but when we look at the planet and the status of the planet, then we need to start asking these wonderful, curious questions. And let me tell you, curiosity is never ending. So on one hand, we can actually move away from this fear of this uncertainty, because curiosity allows improvement. And isn't that, after all, what we're designed to do, to improve? So once we get out of this fear mentality of, I don't like uncertainty, and into when we start going, wow, what can I do to improve? How can I improve? The brain immediately loves improvement. So you no longer feel this fear. Your body then propels you, and your brain propels you into action and into motivation and into investigation, exploration. So yeah, that's how we're going to find the greatest answers that are currently perplexing all of humanity.
Yeah. So another question I have is, why do you think that certain cultures and communities, they show more curiosity than others?
Wow. Yeah, that is a really interesting question, and that's something that honestly I can't answer, other than to say that, you know, I think when we look at how we're designed, and when we look at how we're sort of brought up, we're conditioned, And some societies, some cultures like to question, whereas others actually just want you to follow the program. I know certainly I grew up in Australia. I'm now living in the UK, the same for America. They don't really like this uncertainty. They don't like this risk. Whereas, other cultures are embracing it more. So I think that it's really down to conditioning of each culture. Yeah, because we're living in the past. Our brain is living in the past. The brain is living in our conditioned behaviors.
What are some of the social norms which nudge curiosity in the society?
That nudge curiosity into
The society.
Social norms. Well, this is the thing. We've got these wonderful phones that have the ability to allow us to connect, and yet we're more disconnected than we've ever been. So that is a classic example that we need to start using technology to make us more curious. We need to start using technology to start increasing our curiosity so that we can start to reconnect with people. There's a lovely lady, she's a psychologist called Esther Perel, and she really always talks about using curiosity to start building relationships with people. When you look at the app Clubhouse, for instance, it's something that I'm on fairly regularly. That is a wonderful greenhouse for curiosity, isn't it? And people are really trying to find out more about other people. They're trying to learn and they're trying to develop. And that's exactly what curiosity is. It's a wonderful platform to learn, grow, and also to bounce ideas throughout the world. And that's what we need to do more of. And we need to do it more openly. We need to be curious about other people so that we can understand where they're coming from. And then that reduces this whole diversity issue. We need to get to a point that everybody's got something important to say and everybody can teach us something. I mean, even children, often people discount children and they think that they should be the teacher. But, we get, as parents, one of the wonderful things about being a parent is that you get to learn from your kids as well. They're constantly challenging you. Yeah. So again, this is a wonderful way of trying to change the way we absolutely fundamentally think and become more curious and say to ourselves, yeah, I've got something to learn from my kids, and how can I learn from them?
So thanks, Melinda. These are all the questions that we have. So thank you so much for the session that you just gave us. It was very informative.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Arnav. Thanks, Melinda. That was amazing. I mean, curiosity, it really is key, to everything. Constant learning,
Yes.
Curiosity really equals constant learning. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we wrap up?
Yeah. I mean, having sort of really deconstructed curiosity and how it fundamentally is the basis of survival. So when you kind of think about that quite deeply, you start to realize, well, hang on, it's such an overlooked element that we really need to look into. There was an interesting guy who wrote a book who determines happiness, and he's come up with this wonderful algorithm, if you like, for happiness, and it stems from his experience of unfortunately losing one of his children, and it was very horrific. It was a horrific situation. And when I've looked at his particular story, and what was fundamental to this story was this pivotal moment that this is what everybody's not seeing. And it's so fast and it's so automatic that people just completely dismiss it. But there is a point in time where you actually say to yourself, do I want to do this anymore? Do I want to be in this situation, feeling these feelings? And this is curiosity. Do I want to continue down the path of misery? And because there could not be a greater loss. And when you then start to go, well, okay, could I be trapped into this negative spiral because it's only going to spiral? Or could I reach the small little bits of happiness? Now, happiness is the North Star. Happiness is wonderful. But when you're in that moment, you can't be happy. But what you can do is reach for small things on how to improve that situation. So what curiosity does is it's a leveler. It allows you to stop and go, okay, what am I doing right now? And it's a fantastic measure. Your curiosity, believe it or not, is what measures everything. It gives you perspective. And so when you actually look at that fundamental fast element, we need to slow that right down. And we need to sort of say to ourselves, okay, what's going on right now? Where am I right now? What can I do in this moment to help in some little way improve this situation? And I guarantee that takes you off into just moving forward. And then you break that cycle. And then, then you can start learning, developing and growing, which is another, wonderful element of being a human being. These are natural abilities. And, Jim Quick actually says, we haven't been taught how to learn properly. But when you actually think about it, this is because we haven't actually been taught how to think properly. And I know that seems quite bizarre to a lot of people, but when were you actually told when we were in school, right, okay, let's think about when you're unhappy. Were you actually told, hang on a minute, how can I get out of this? We were never told this. So we need to really kind of focus on what is going on with this automation. And we need to kind of start asking ourselves, well, how can we learn from that? How can we start to break this automation so that we're not living in the past anymore, so that we can move forward? And then these are such simple questions. And they're so simple. They're so profoundly simple, in fact, that it's almost, it is truly unbelievable. But I guarantee you, I just encourage everybody to just try it all the time. What can I learn today? What a great way to start. How are you starting your day? I start by alignment, by saying to myself, how can I improve my day? And that is a wonderful way of actually moving forward in your day. And I guarantee that helps you to move forward in life as well.
Right. Melinda, there's, I mean, everything that you've said, I mean, it really hits the nail on the head. There's another thing that you talked about earlier in your talk about uncertainty. The reason that people are scared even to be curious is uncertainty. And I think, we're talking to a lot of parents and students today, and it may be so that it is that fear that actually keeps people from asking those questions or
Yes.
even responding to those questions. Is there can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, I mean, really what we've got to start doing is getting back into the body. We need to start saying to ourselves, what am I feeling right now? And this is emotional intelligence, by the way. Emotional intelligence in the sort of 90s and the year 2000s was very big because in business, people wanted to be able to understand other people, to influence other people. But the greatest way to influence other people is to influence yourself. And so we need to start asking ourselves how we are feeling right now. And we do so with these simple questions. What am I feeling? Is this really something that can actually be dealt with by constantly going back, by constantly self-editing? Because this self-editor, by the way, is actually focusing on what's wrong. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? All the time. And that's the cycle that we need to break. And so, we need to kind of start looking at what are we doing right in the world? And, so when we look at this uncertainty, I appreciate it feels like everything is uncertain at the moment. But when you actually start to question, well, hang on a minute, the weather is changing all the time, and yet we adapt to that all the time. The universe is growing all the time. So if our education systems can come to a point where we can start to embrace change and we can start to develop our curiosity more, then we start to sort of just relax into it, because uncertainty is here. And change is here to stay, and we need to embrace that as a really good thing. We need to look at that as a really, really good thing, and we need to kind of start saying to our kids, don't be scared of change. This is the world that we're living in, and without change, we wouldn't be where we are. And so, I encourage everybody to start to really question what change is. What is change? And that's what I did. Why are we so scared of it? And then start to really focus in on ourselves more curiously.
Thanks, Melinda. There is one more thing though, that while it is good to be curious, there is so much out there. How curious is good enough, and how curious should you be? There's so much noise, there's so much exposure, there's so much information.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're talking about is overwhelm, and I get that. Believe me, I do get that. So again, we need to start asking ourselves, how am I feeling? Because if I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, my brain starts to go into overdrive, and that's when I know, whoa, hang on a minute, let's slow this right down. And then I can do things like meditation. But you've got to ask yourself that question first. You've got to say to yourself, well, hang on a minute, how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling quite overwhelmed. And this happens on a couple of days a week. I'm feeling overwhelmed because I've got a lot to do. I'm a busy person. I've got children as well. We're all pulled and pushed, and no one is any different from the other. Some people may be more busier than the other. So it's a case of, hang on, where are my thoughts right now? Are they darting? And that's usually a telltale sign of overwhelm. And then start to kind of say, okay, what can I do right now to improve that? Have I looked at my breathing recently? Check your breathing. Again, how many breaths am I breathing per minute? And then, ask yourself, have I meditated recently? Start to meditate. What is meditation? Again, but what it actually does is you can use curiosity to really start slowing yourself right down. And that's imperative curiosity, by the way. So yeah, do you know what? It's really such a remarkable tool, but you have to kind of use it in the right way, and it has its place in every moment. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Melinda. That's really nice. Imperative curiosity. Thanks, Melinda. That was a great session.